All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today's going to be a good one, I think, for you guys. There's a lot of questions that were asked on Instagram. I'm with Thomas today, my co-host, my brother, and wanted to tell you guys that this podcast is brought to you by Motion Ducks. And Motion Ducks is a realistic decoy sprayer system for those calm windless days. We've actually been using it for, I didn't think it was this long, but it's actually been 5 years. I looked up some videos on YouTube. Then I'm doing some editing. I got a really cool video coming out Tuesday. It's a duck hunt, but at the beginning of it, there's going to be some deals in there for the spreader. But I want to tell you guys on the podcast separately that if you go to motionducks.com/MVM, Mid-Valley Mercenaries, MVM, you get a discounted ultimate spreader, a free anchor bag, and if you put the code MVM10, you get an additional 10% off. So really check that out, guys. If you're getting prepped for season, this podcast is brought to you by Motion Ducks, and if you're getting ready, you definitely want to check them out. We've been using them for a long time, and me and Thomas have already talked. We plan on using them a lot more this year. Motion is everything. So today, it's key. As Thomas would say, it's key. So today we're bringing you some questions that you guys asked a few months ago on Instagram. We did one podcast already, get more birds in the spread, or in the decoys. And one of the things I asked was, what's the biggest challenges as a new duck hunter? So now today on this one, we're going to talk about a few things. First off, we're going to talk about making connections and learning. So I don't know, Thomas, what do you kind of have to say about that? Because I think it was easy for us because we kind of we're already really tight. We have a lot of close friends. Travis was already hunting. We're close to him, so it kind of fell in place pretty easy. I'm your brother. But what about those guys that don't have all that and want to start building those connections and learning how? What's your suggestion for them?
Just doing it mainly, for, let's just say, a guy that none of his buddies hunt ducks, maybe it's not in his family. Like you said, you already had someone that had been doing it for a while. I think Travis had been doing it for quite a while when you started, and then you were getting more and more, going a lot more when I started going. So yeah, it was pretty easy for us because we already had somebody that could kind of show us the ropes. But if somebody didn't have that luxury, I think you're just gonna have to put in maybe a little bit more time. But I will say, not to blow our own horn or something like that, but there's plenty of people on YouTube or social media for that matter. Not all of it's good, but there's so many things that you could learn just from watching YouTube. And that's not just with duck hunting. That's anything. That's any kind of hunting. That's any kind of, a lot of different trades. There's so many things that you can learn from that. And I think a lot of people know that. So, I would definitely use that tool, but that's only going to get you so far. The rest of it's going to come from going out in the field yourself and doing it and figuring things out for yourself. Now, by going out and doing it, you're going to meet people really, whether you try to or not. So, one of the biggest things that carries over into any aspect of your life is just having a good attitude. You might not know something, but just like when you start any new job, obviously you don't know how to do it, but if you have a good attitude and you're willing to learn, 9 times out of 10, someone's gonna end up helping you in some way. So whether you're hunting public or even an easier thing would be hunting some kind of a club or private property. Obviously, if you have that connection already, they're really going to help you out. But if let's just say for the guys that hunt public only, and you pretty much don't have anyone to help you, what I would just say is just go out, hunt, and ask questions. Have a good attitude. Some guys probably ain't going to help you. That's just the way it is. But there's still a lot of good people that hunt. So there will be people that you could develop relationships with, friendships with, whatever it is, and I'm learning a lot from them too.
Yeah. A couple places you can go check out, like Tom said, social media. Sometimes it's a good place, sometimes it's a bad place. But if you find the right groups, you can definitely get helped. One of those is, I would highly suggest, they're very, very active on there. We don't do so good on the Facebook side. But Fellowship of the Duck Guns, there's over 7,000 members now. It's Jordan and Elliot's kind of pages they started on Facebook to basically help other hunters and to just talk and chat and do whatever. But they really are God. I've seen a lot of new people ask questions in there, and a lot of good people get in there. Really, a lot of different good people, not just, like I said, Jordan Elliott, but like some good names of really solid people that were willing to help you out. Plus, to make connections, I've seen a lot of guys hook up on there. Like, say, if they're from Virginia or from wherever, they'll say, "Is anybody out there from Virginia?" And then they'll hook up with those guys. So it's a good place. I can totally understand how you get that way. Like, you want to find other people, but Thomas, like you said, it kind of happens without trying. I mean, if you go out and hunt enough and you're a friendly person, you're going to meet people that might become lifelong friends you hunt with the rest of your life. So it will happen. It might be your first year. Like Tom said, just get out there. The first year might be by yourself quite a bit, but that's okay though. I mean, as a guy that hunts with one or two people every time, I know, Thomas, you like getting out by yourself every once in a while, and so do I. It's just it's kind of nice to get out there. So
yeah, and you never know. You could be the one that starts going more, and then you might be getting your own friends to go out there with you. That's another thing. But like I said, it's just doing it. You're going to meet people by doing it that way, and it's going to be face to face. It's not going to be online, and it's not going to be all that garbage. It's going to be in the real world. And like I said, man, if you have a good attitude and willing to learn, I mean, a big resource, maybe it's not a connection, but I mean, a resource is your state's Fish and Game website. You can learn a lot that you need to know from just spending time in front of the computer. Maybe things that you wouldn't learn even from people out in the field, but it's really a mixture of both, because as far as making connections, I would say if you're only hunting public, the only way that's going to come is by getting out there on the public ground,
Yeah. So,
and another option, I guess that's coming to me as I'm thinking about it, but if it is something you want to get into, be active in some of the nonprofit organizations that help, duck hunting, like Ducks Unlimited, Delta Waterfowl. Maybe your state has a program, and they throw banquets, and that is another place where you can meet people.
That's a good place to meet other duck hunters.
Yeah.
In the off season too, California Waterfowl for here was ours, but
right.
CWA. Yeah, there really is a lot of tools. I don't want to paint everybody with the broad brush and say the guys that always try to ask, specifically come on there and where is that? Where is that? Where do I go? I don't want to all paint them with the broad brush and say they're just lazy, but I mean, one thing you're going to learn right out the gate as a new hunter is etiquette. Is you just don't ask people. You don't do that. That's just something you don't like. You don't ask that guy where he caught his 10-pound bass. You just congratulate him and say, "Man, that's awesome. I'm happy for you." And you put in your own work and you try to better yourself. And the older I get, the more it's never been, especially with duck hunting, it hasn't been, but in everything, even in life and sports, we've been playing a lot of softball lately and started playing a little bit of volleyball again. And it's like, what? I feel like in everything I do, I'm competing against myself. It's not like if I get mad, I'm going to get mad at myself for something that I did. You know what I mean? Like if I did something wrong, popped it up in softball or whatever I'm doing in the off season, it's like it's no one's fault but mine. So just, I guess what I'm saying is push yourself, and if you don't have success, learn from that and be better on the next one. So many resources out there, but anyways, anything else to say for that one, Thomas?
No, I think we covered that one pretty good.
I mean, I'm sure you could talk about different avenues, but we'll move on to the next one. The next one is a big one, and that is accurate shooting. People are saying that was their biggest challenge as a new duck hunter. So those people that respond to those are people that have been duck hunting for a while and saying these were their issues, right? So making connections and learning was their hardest thing as a new duck hunter. Accurate shooting, and that goes for everybody. But that's a skill, and I'll start this one. That's a skill that comes over time, like especially for game. You know, if it's pheasant, if it's which to me is the easiest probably of all. Birds to shoot, wing shooting, I guess you'd call it. Ducks, being, I don't know if I'm gonna say they're the hardest. Dove are actually pretty jig and jag and move all over the place. They're pretty tough to hit, actually. But as far as wing shooting and shooting ducks better specifically, my biggest thing has been and always will be is lead. It's everybody shoots the tail feathers, myself included. If I miss most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time it's behind. You got to remember to help with this. You got to visualize shot string. And if you don't know what that is, we've talked about it enough times on here. But for those of you that are maybe your first time listener, I'm just going to name some numbers. At 20 yards, your shot string may be 10 feet to 15 feet, meaning there's a cylinder shape. If you were looking from the side profile, there's like a cylinder shape of pellets that are stretched out. That was all in that shell over a 10 foot to 15 foot span. That's a shot string. So you can visualize that. And so that being said, if you lead the bird enough, they may fly through the middle of that shot string when they're flying left to right or right to left or whatever, which is more what this involves, what I'm talking about. If they're going straight at you or straight away, that's different. But shoot ahead, because if you miss the front part of your pattern, maybe the middle or the back will hit them. But your best kill is always going to be the head, right? They're never going to go down when they're shot in the tail feathers. And if they do, that you're wounding them and they fly off and they end up dying later. So that's always my biggest thing. You got to force your brain to lead more than you think. I remember having those thoughts, lead more, like shoot where I'm almost uncomfortable in front of them. Like I'm thinking, I'm going to shoot in front of them. And you don't. You end up folding them hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, one of the big tools we used was the shot cam, and that's, real live play or, playback or whatever of how you're shooting, because you might be shooting in a way that you didn't even realize. But yeah, I would say 90% of the time you're shooting behind it, or the other 10% is probably under or over the bird. But, every gun shoots a little bit different, and every person, might shoulder the gun a little bit different. So it is, there is something to be said of having a gun that fits you correctly. And maybe if you don't know how to get it to fit you correctly, maybe there's someone, a gunsmith or a gun store that you can go to and talk to about maybe adjusting the stock, to fit you a little bit better. But there obviously you can practice in the off season. You can shoot clay pigeons, and you can shoot trap and skeet and 5-stand or sporting clays and all that stuff to help you, and that will definitely help you big time. But I think a lot of hunting is a little bit more instinctive for me. Like I feel like if you're overthinking it, sometimes it can make me worse than if I just go on instinct. A lot of times it might be kind of difficult to, and there's so many situations. Sometimes though, I'm talking about more like public land hunting. I'm not talking about the cushy blind that you built in summertime and you got the whole work set up and you got a nice wooden deck to stand on and this and that. I'm talking like if you're out in the mud or you're out in the ice or, whatever, water up to your waist or something like that. A lot of times it's not always the most ideal shooting conditions. So, some of that is just going to come with time. And, an even bigger part of that is, your shell and choke combination, what you're using too.
Oh, so, come on, Thomas. That doesn't matter. Come on.
Yeah, it does matter. So,
Why does that matter?
where
Why does that matter?
wherever you stand on that,
Why does that matter?
um, well, it matters because if you could possibly be shooting just fine, but the ammo that you might be using might not be adequate. So you might be getting frustrated because you're wounding birds, or maybe you did hit the bird, but it was, not just the best shot. So you watch them fly off. So, um, that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But as far as being successful shooting, um, I would just say practice, and you know, there's multiple facets to that because you talked about duck hunting being um, maybe one of the more difficult ones. And again, it's situational. Like, we do have spots where we can shoot birds at 10 yards. And actually, sometimes it's almost more difficult because if you're choking and set up for that, you're shooting a lot tighter of a pattern. So it's almost easier hitting a bird at 30 yards than it is at 10. So, I mean, um, success, I would say, if you are able to get birds in closer, you're going to have a higher chance of being successful on your shooting. I mean, that's just the way it is. But like I said, I don't want to go into a different topic. But closer are able to get those birds, the better your chance of having a successful shot.
Yep. And I don't really want to jump. I think we could stay on this for a little bit because you got to go here in just a minute. I kind of do too. So we might as well finish out with this. We have so many more, 8 or 9 more. There'll probably be a series of these guys. So stay tuned. These are questions you guys asked that we're answering because those are issues we've had too. Accurate shooting. It's like I had an over and under, a TriStar over and under. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with that thing, and I get so mad and so frustrated. I don't know if I was still using that when you started, Thomas, or not yet. I don't know if I had already.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It didn't, like he said, it didn't fit me right. There was something. It was maybe the choke shell combo. Because guys, believe it or not, some people do try to say, and it's just their lack of knowledge. It's not that they're being facetious or anything, but the lack of knowledge really shows it in itself sometimes because people will be like, ammo doesn't matter. Yes, it does. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Because
if ammo don't matter, why don't I shoot a 30 grain bullet at a bull elk instead of like a 180 grain bullet?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not even something that can be argued.
Right. Well, and to dig even further into that, when you pattern your gun, and I was never a proponent of doing that. I thought there's no point. I'm killing ducks. Why do I need to do that? But there's a combination of things why I feel like I am a better wing shooter than I was 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it's just a combination of a lot of things. The shot cam Thomas named, I know those are expensive, but guys, they go on sale for like $450 a year, and I'm telling you, it's the best investment if you want to be a better shot. I feel like you can make one of them because you see lead, you see the power of lead, and you see when you shoot behind. Another thing is patterning my gun and getting the right chokes to make a better, denser pattern. Whether I want a full pattern, a really full tight pattern from a full choke, or if I want a really spread open one for those tight 10-yard shots Thomas was talking about. But then there's those patterns that when you shoot your gun with your shell, your gun, and your choke combination that have massive holes in them, big time. There's a brand that I would shoot when I would shoot on paper at 20 yards, just 20 yards, because guys are like, that's a waste of time. It's not. I just don't get that stuff. Like I said, it's a lack of knowledge and wisdom to say 20 yards is a waste of time with the pattern. I know 40 will show a lot more, but 20 still. I've seen like the size of potato chunks in the middle of a pattern that big. If you just imagine a big old russet potato that had no BBs in it, right in the dead middle of the pattern. I'm not saying if you miss something, a teal at 20 yards that maybe you just underlet him or shot over him, but I guarantee you there's times that pattern goes right through that bird and they keep going. I'll bet my life on it. So yes, ammo does matter, and the choke and gun deal. not everyone wants to spend the money on the more ammo. Not everybody wants to go get an aftermarket choke. I totally get that, and you don't have to. Just at least be open-minded enough to say, well, let me try this other brand of steel, the way they do it and how they built it, whatever it is. Those are all factors in getting the best setup. Thomas, you said already, when you're getting ready for an elk hunt, did you shoot a few different ammos before to get like what worked in your gun the best and was the straightest shooting? I mean, surely.
Two different grains.
Okay. And one was better than the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why would you want to go into the field with any less than that? It's like, I don't know why guys want to walk in there blindly to duck season. Yes, it's a shotgun and there's 200-300 pellets in that, that shotgun shell. But I mean, still, why not make it the best you can?
Right.
I mean, that's just, I think that's what we all want to do. We all want to be better and make everything better. So, I could go on and on about that. Harrison, every time he comes on, we're digging so far into that because it's so important. So, look into, do you feel like, I don't feel like going and shooting trap and skeet really helps me for ducks. I do think it helps me to shoulder the gun and just get some reps.
Mm-hmm. And it could help with not trap and maybe not ski as much, probably more sporting clays, but it can help you get lead,
Yeah.
and at least swinging your gun,
Mm-hmm.
in a consistent way.
Yep.
But like you said, when it comes to, birds, they're not always consistent. So it's a little more instinctive.
Yeah. Do you agree with me how if you make a bad shot, it's because you didn't throw your gun up properly? Like when you throw it up, you didn't really get it up where it needs to be. You kind of was like looking down on top of your barrel a little bit.
I think it's at least 50% of missed shots.
Yeah.
Because I mean, whenever you're hunting, you have different kind of layers on, and if it's a little low, a little high, or if you got something that's like kind of, I don't know, just messing you up. I feel like that's happened to me a lot of times. Now, there's been a lot of times where I felt good and I just wasn't shooting good too. But I mean, you got a big old buckle right there on your right hand side, or maybe you caught up in your call lanyard or whatever, and like that, and you didn't shoulder it right and didn't get your head right. I'd say that's a big part of it.
Yeah. One tip, and we'll let you guys go. To kind of help with that, before season, empty gun, make sure it's on safe, make sure there's nothing in the chamber, but throw your gun up a lot, a few times a day. When you're walking by it, throw it up and I heard this from somebody else, throw your bead up in the corner of the room and track. Are you there, Thomas?
Yeah.
I made a weird click. And track where the wall meets the ceiling and track that line. Left, track it right, pull it up and put it right in the corner of your bead, and then follow it right. You'd actually be surprised how much you go up and down and can't stay in a nice, smooth, even pattern. So that's a good way to throw your gun up properly and to look down your bead. So any another tip you can give for just kind of building that repetition?
Not necessarily. I mean, everybody might like to do stuff a little differently. What I feel like I do a little more subconsciously now is when I'm hunting with like maybe one or two jackets on or something, I feel like I tend to push the gun out more and then bring it straight back into my shoulder versus just bringing the stock up, because I've caught my jacket a lot of times like that. I mean, this is maybe longer ago, but like, you know what I mean? You catch, if you're shooting in a t-shirt all summer long and then you go get into some cold weather, you're going to be catching up because you got your jacket, you got your waders, and you got calls and stuff. Now I feel like I tend to push it out and then bring the stock straight back into my shoulder and then get, a bead and then shoot.
That's a good one. That's super good. So true. Good call on that one. Well, we might have shortchanged that just a hair because we both got to get going and do some things, but I wanted to get this episode out to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, don't forget to keep rating and reviewing on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, all these platforms. We're doing good. We're holding strong in some of the top less than top 10, probably actually top 5 waterfowl podcasts out there. So we thank you for that. Thank you for all your support and everything you do. We're going to be getting our website fixed soon, get a little bit of things on there for sale, some hats and stuff like that again. And just ready, pumped to put out content this season. Got rejuvenated, refreshed, and put some content out there, got to help people out. And I think like you guys are, like we are ready for season. But Thomas has a pretty good elk hunt coming up. So we wished him the best of luck. I don't know if he'll be on here again before he goes on that hunt, but we'll have to hear your story, Thomas, and see how you and Dad do. Dad's going, right?
Yeah.
Just you two. So
Yep.
Thomas has been working on his elk calling and all that good stuff. So we'll wish him the best of luck, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.